friends. Just coming on for a few minutes because I promised to do this yesterday. I did it yesterday. I promised to do it last night and I wasn't able to. And today has just been, it is that kind of day where I think I'm going to do more and I'm not quite there. So happy Friday. We are here for about half an hour. While I'm here, I'm going to update my reading journal and maybe answer some questions if you come on. So let's see how you're doing. Happy Friday. It is September 5th. It is my birthday. Today is the day that I am 1 year older. It is September 5. So I am going to I'm going to try to update my reading journal today. Yeah. I've been struggling the last few months, struggling to keep the journal updated, but I don't want to fall behind on it because I've been doing well so far. I've been doing really great so far. So in my reading journal, I've been keeping track of how I'm doing with my goals for the year. I set a lot of reading goals this year, and I don't know if I'm going to meet them, but I'm still working towards them. So the journal helps me keep in mind what it is that I say I want to do so that I can keep focused on them throughout the year. And the times when I don't keep my reading journal updated is when sometimes I fall short of my targets for the year. And like by the time I realize that I am in jeopardy of not meeting my goals, it's too late in the year to catch up. So like if I don't track, well, yesterday I told you that I use a spreadsheet to track my number goal. And I'm also tracking on the spreadsheet other things that are important to me or significant to me, things that I want to know during the year. But some of my other goals are not numerical goals. Some of them are like specific lists of books that I want to read or work towards reading in the year. And so those are things that I use my reading journal to keep track of. So like I have a few authors that I'm trying to read all of their works. Hi, Arian. So I have a few authors that I'm trying to read all of their works. And there's no way that I have found yet to track that in my spreadsheet, my online spreadsheet. So I have lists that I keep in my reading journal, and throughout the year as I read from those authors, I'm able to tick them off and see what kind of progress I'm making towards that goal of reading all of that author's work. A couple of nights ago when we did the first live at night, I shared about my bookshelf, that one of the things that I am working on, one of the things that I am working on is reading all the books that have won the Booker Prize. And so I have collected some of them and I have read through some of them. When I started the challenge to read them, I was just reading them. I just wanted to read them, so I picked some of the short ones. I picked some of the books that were available to me right away. But as time went by, I thought about it. I thought about what I really wanted to do with the challenge, which is to read all the books in the order that they won and make videos about them. So that's something that I started a few years ago, and I haven't made any progress in the last couple of years, but it's something that is an ongoing challenge. So I'm collecting the books and I'm intending to read them and make videos about them. So the first maybe 7 or so books I read, I made videos about them, and they're organized on the channel, so you can see those. But yeah, I don't track that on my spreadsheet. I track that in my reading journal. So in my reading journal, I keep track of those challenges that I'm working on. I also have a couple of other lists that I curated from other sources, just titles that I want to read for one reason or another. So at the beginning of the year, sometimes I look at my bookshelf and see some books that have lingered around unread for a while, and I want to try to read them during the year or make a decision about them, whether I want to read them, whether I still want to read them, or whether it's time to donate the book or give it to someone. Yeah. So those are things that I track in my reading journal. I also keep track of what's going on in my book life, month by month. So I'm just now setting up because, like I said, the last couple of weeks have been a little strange, but I'm just now kind of setting up my month for September. So in September, these are two lists that I will keep. One is my TBR, books that I intend to read this month for one reason or another. So I'll write down the title of the book and the reason that I want to read the book. So like I'm judging the BookTube prize, and if I am reading a title specifically for the BookTube prize, I'll write the title and BookTube prize as the reason. And then this first tab right here would be for me to mark off that I have read the book when I've read it. So ideally, this would have been filled out at the beginning of the month. Several books that I've set aside in my mind mentally, or physical copies that I've gotten from the library, or books that I have collected from publishers I want to do reviews on. So I'd write down the books that I want to read this month, and then as I'm reading them, or as I have completed reading them, I would mark it off. So I'll show you in a previous month what it looks like when I actually do it. Okay, this was a very successful month, so I'm showing you this one first. So this was April. These were all the books that I intended to read in April, and the little dots show you that I actually read that book that month. And then I started adding the number. So I'm also tracking the number of books that I read for the year, and I'm tracking that separately in my journal. So each book that I'm reading for the year has a number, and that number will correspond to where it falls on my spreadsheet on Excel, but also in the front of my journal, I'm keeping track of the numbers of the books that I read and whether they're sourced from my shelf or otherwise. So the dots and numbers here will correspond to the earlier spread in the front, as well as to my online tracker. That's a successful month. As you can tell, my TBR actually fell off of my list, off of my table, because I read so many books. I was doing this challenge where I read so many books that I could no longer fit them into the table that I had drawn, and so I was just writing them at the bottom, and as I was writing them I was reading them. So a lot of dots. That was a very successful month. That was in April. So if you've been watching my videos, you may remember I did this 10 book in 10-ish days. I didn't finish all the books in the 10 days. It was like at the end of the month, and I was trying to see if I could finish this challenge, and I was successful with it, but I didn't complete it. Does that make sense? I did a lot more than I probably would have. I read a lot more than I would have if I hadn't set the challenge for myself, but I didn't meet all the goals for the challenge. So it's something that I'd like to do again. Just I need to be able to have the time to actually work on it. A less successful month was in May, and a big part of that was after I've read a lot in a month, sometimes the next month I don't read as much. So in May I wrote down all these books that I was going to read, and I only finished 5 or 4. There are only 4 dots here. Some of these would then carry over to the next month, and that's how that would work. Other things that I track from month to month would be my haul. So I usually write down all the books that I get during the month and where they come from. If it's a book that I have bought, how much I spent to purchase it, or if I didn't buy it, if it was a gift from a publisher or something, then I'll write that down. If it was a gift from someone else, then I'll write that down as well. So date that I got the book, date that it came in, the title of the book, and the source. And if it's a book that I purchased, the dollar amount that I spent. So I need to fill this in because I've gotten some books in the last 5 days. Now, the haul I can usually fill in later because I usually film when I open a bookish package. If it comes from the publisher, I will film when I open the box or package so that I can share that on one of my platforms. As part of what I decided, that's part of what I do as a response to a publisher gift. Whether I read the book immediately or not, whether I'm going to review the book or just feature it, I try to film an unboxing. So I will usually have footage in my phone or on my platform about the date, and I'll know whether or not it's a book that came in. So I could fill this in pretty much anytime, but I like to keep track of it. I don't like things to get backed up because then it's harder to deal with. So that's the beginning of a new month in my reading journal. And then as the month goes on, I fill in what I've been reading, and I usually get a bookish picture or a sticker or something that represents the book, as well as my thoughts on the book, a rating, something that's significant to me, something that will remind me of my experience of reading the book. I don't know why these keep falling out. So sometimes the publishers send me little things that represent the book. So like this was a sticker page that came with my current read. If you're seeing this, It's Meant for You by Lee Stein. Name's right here. So this is, I could put this in my reading journal instead of printing out the book cover. I left the book outside though, because I was reading it earlier. I really like this. But my journal is pretty small. I experimented with using a bigger journal. It felt a little overwhelming. So my journal is pretty small. So I don't have a lot of space. I try to fit maybe 2 books on each one of these pages. Usually 2 books, sometimes 3, but usually 2 books. So I'll show you completed pages. All right, so like this would be a page that I completed, and it's not completed. As you can see, it's 75% done. 4 books, I only wrote something about 3 of them. And the reason I didn't write this down, because I had a lot to say, but I could always write it later because I know I posted a review on Goodreads, so I have written a review that I can refer to. I also made a couple of videos where I talked about this because I read it for a challenge. This title here is Twist by Colum McCann, and he's an Irish author, and I read him with a couple of other Irish authors. You'll see I read Foster by Claire Keegan and A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. That was earlier, also not written about. So I have thoughts that I can refer to fill this out later if I want to. I will. So this is part of what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to update my reading journal. I just need to sometimes come in here and actually write things down. I like to sit with my thoughts before I write it down because, like you see, I really didn't give myself a lot of room to make changes, and I can always cover up a page if I need to, but you know, I'd rather not do that. I want to be brief, but also record my actual thoughts. So I want to sit with my thoughts about it before I actually update it, and so sometimes I just forget to come back and do it. Yeah, another page that's 3/4 done. This is like all through my journal. 4 books, and I've talked about 3 of them, and 1 of them I haven't. This one was a BookTube prize candidate. I made a video about the books. I can always go back if I forget how I felt about the book. I can go back and reread that. I also, after I submitted my ballot, I also discussed this book with someone on WhatsApp. So I have those messages that I can go back and listen to. And I think what happened with this, why I didn't eventually write my final thoughts on the book, was because the discussion that we were having, the person I was having it with had some challenges, some life challenges, and we never actually finished talking about the book. So we discussed a lot of it, and he's a huge, the subject matter was very significant to him. This is a book about jazz. It's Shades of Blue, and it's talking about some of the jazz greats: Dave Coltrane, Miles Davis, Bill Evans. And so the person I was talking about it with is a huge jazz fan, and I wanted some feedback on some parts of the book before I wrote in my journal about it. And we never discussed, he had an accident, and after he got better, it just so much time had passed. We never came back to talking about the end of the book. But yeah, other pages, like this page, this is James by Percival Everett. I will forever shout the praises of this book because it's one of the best books that I've read this year. And I actually wrote that here, best book. So spoiler, because it is a candidate for the BookTube Prize finals, which I am judging. So I can't tell you right now if one of the other books is going to beat this book in my ranking for best book. You'll have to come back at the end of the month to hear how that wraps up. But in April, when I read the book, I thought it was one of the best books that I had read all year up to that point. A lot has happened since April, so we will just have to see how that shakes out. So yeah, that is a little bit about my reading journal. Here's another page. This is my first page, which I was dedicated to keeping up with. This was in January, as you could see. These are the first 4 books that I read in 2025. I talked about 84 Charing Cross Road, why this is the first book that I read. It's an idea that I got inspired by Sarah from Hardcover Hearts. That's her channel name here on YouTube, and it's also her platform name on Instagram, Hardcover Hearts. And she was the first person I heard talk about this book, and also that she reads this book as her first book every year. So on January 1st, she'll pick it up, and because it's a small book and very immersive, and the writing style is epistolary format, so the format is really accessible. It's a book that you can read and really enjoy and also finish on day 1 of the year. So she recommends it as a book to start the year with. And when I heard about that, I said, I'm going to try it. But I think the first time I read it, it was not in January. But since then, I usually start my year with this book as well. So I think I've been doing it now maybe the last 2 years or so. It's a 5-star read. If you haven't yet read it, I would recommend it highly. 84 Charing Cross Road is by Helen Hanff, and it is about an American writer and a bookseller in London, in England. The address, the 84 Charing Cross Road, the title is the address of the physical bookstore in England. But the exchange that happens between this bookseller and this author in America is epistolary. So the book is the exchanges of their letters over an extended period of time. And while it starts off with just these 2 people, it grows to involve a lot of other people, and so there are other perspectives, other voices in the book. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful read. So if you haven't yet read it, high recommendation. It's how I know for sure I'm gonna start the year with a 5-star read, reread something. Because it's small, it's really accessible. So these are the first 4 books that I read in 2025, and the first the first 4, yeah, they were all 5-star reads. So 4 books, very different kinds of books, but all very enjoyable, very beautiful works of fiction or nonfiction, and I would recommend all of them. So here are the titles: 84 Charing Cross Road, which I just talked about, by Helen Hanff; The Paris Novel by Ruth Rischel, which is a novel about a young woman from America who goes to Paris on the instruction of her mother and her experience while she is there. It's a very coming of age sort of story, even though this young woman is already an adult when she goes to Paris. And it has the quintessential Parisian experiences, but Ruth Rischel is a very accomplished food writer, very sensual writing, and she uses that gift in this novel. So the food is very deliciously presented in this novel. The discussion about fashion, about art, about community, about relationships, about what I would consider to be a very francophile experience from someone who's never been to France. But she represents what I consider to be the French experience in a lot of very sensual ways, and I love it. So it was a beautiful, beautiful novel, and this was a gift from the publishers as well. The third book that I read was World of Wonders by Amy Nezuka Mathathil. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Amy Nezuka. I feel like I have a little lisp when I call her name. Amy Nezuka Mathathil. There we go. And this was nature writing. This was about a woman who had lived in different parts of the country. I don't think there was any. Yeah, it's all American, but she's the daughter of immigrants, and her parents are Indian immigrants, Filipino and Indian. And so she has a huge immigrant background, which is something that speaks to me. And it's about how she captures the things that represent her in her travels across the country. And it's nature writing at its finest. It's a small book, very accessible, and I loved it. I read this as a recommendation from Heidi from My Reading Life and Doris from Aldi Books, and they run the Nature Lovers Book Club. Is that the name of the book club? I think so. Book Naturalist. It's the Book Naturalist Book Club. That's the name of their book club. So Heidi from My Reading Life and Doris from Aldi Books, they promote nature writing on their channels. They recommended this book as part of as one of the books for the book club, and so I wanted to read it, and I did, and it was a 5-star read. And then the last 5-star on this page is a self-help memoir style book about organizing your life and organizing your home, and it's called Tidy Up Your Life, and the author's name is Tyler Moore, and his online presence, his Instagram handle, I think, is Tidy Dad. And I loved it because he's from Queens, where I live, Queens, New York. He is a teacher, and I come from a family of teachers. And he's also a man who is actively taking control, or taking responsibility, not control, taking responsibility for his family's organization, the organization of their household, in their physical space, in terms of how they live and what kind of things they do. And I know, you could say almost anything online, because who's going to refute your arguments? But the fact that is his platform, and he shares visual media as well, I was just very inspired. I was inspired by what he said. I really liked how he talked about it. And there was another thing that really spoke to me. It was how he talked about his life, where tidying up your life was not just about the physical space, it was about just managing the stimuli that is around you as much as you can. So he's a teacher, and he had an opportunity to become an administrator. And then he talked about leaving the administration position and going back into the classroom as a teacher, because that was what he felt his purpose in the education system was. So it wasn't probably the most, it's not the common trajectory. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people, once they get a promotion to an administrative position, that's it. They're not going back into a classroom unless they're going to observe a teacher. But he said it gave him a lot more balance for him to be a teacher rather than administrator. And so even though there were some sacrifices, usually there's a pay raise with an administrator position. And he was like, those are not the things that are most important. I will do what's best for me and for my family. And I just like that. A lot of what he said was very it resonated with me. So I really liked his book. And so that was a 5-star read. So those are my first 4 books for the year. And I come back to these pages often because January was well done in my journal. So I came on here today to update my journal, but I'm just yapping. If you have questions about the books, please feel free to write them in the comments and share your thoughts. Tell me what you're reading. But there's a lot of empty spaces in the journal, just a lot of empty spaces, books that I wasn't sure that what I wanted to write down in the journal, so I didn't write anything. But most of the books that I have read this year, I have reviewed in another place. So even if I haven't yet updated the physical reading journal, I have a discussion on YouTube in a wrap-up, or a recommendation on TikTok or on Instagram, or Goodreads. Sometimes I update my Goodreads, not always. Sometimes I just put a rating. But I can go back and update this another time. So that was what I wanted to share. I'm not going to stay on here for very long because I need to go pick up my daughter. And before I go to get her, I need to stop to get something. So a few more minutes just so we could chat a little more. Let me know what you're reading. Happy Friday to everyone. Tell me what you're reading now. Tell me what you plan to read. Tell me what you plan to read this weekend. I haven't been reading. If you haven't been on the lives before, you may not have heard me share because I haven't really been talking too much about it. But my mom is not well. She's in hospital, and praying that she is recovering, but she is being treated right now. And so it's a little difficult. It's a little difficult being away from her. I want to be there to support. I want to be there to help. But I am trusting and praying that she's getting the treatment that she needs so she can recover quickly and completely. That is the plan and the goal. So because of that, I've just been thinking about it a lot, like trying to figure out what to do, about a lot of things. But yeah. So it's hard for me to immerse myself in a book when I'm thinking, my mind is like racing about other things. It's hard for me to immerse. So I've been reading a couple of pages. Like yesterday we had the reading sprint and I read about 20 pages, and I wanted to come back today and read some more with you, but time just ran away from me. because today is my birthday, and it's a little strange because usually my mom is my first call of the day. She usually calls me early in the morning to sing for me and to wish me happy birthday, and it's just so strange. It's just so strange to have my birthday and not have spoken to my mom yet. So I'm hoping that later, when my dad or my brother go to visit her, that I'll be able to hear her on the phone. Here's hoping. Here's hoping. So this is my reading journal. Other things that I track in my reading journal. So I mentioned that there are a few authors that I want to read all their works. These are the 3 authors that I'm actively working on right now, and so I keep a list in my book of the books that they have published. So all of these authors have passed away. This is Muriel Spark, Barbara Pym, and Toni Morrison. And so this is where I've gotten so far with Muriel Spark's work. This is where I've gotten so far with Barbara Pym's work, and this is where I've gotten so far with Toni Morrison. And there are a couple of Toni Morrison books that I have read before that I didn't mark off here because my plan was to reread all the books. So yeah, since I started the challenge, these are the 4 books that I have finished from Toni Morrison. I read Sula a long time ago, intended to come back and read that, and I haven't yet. I started Love, I haven't finished it. I started Home, I haven't finished it. So I put those aside, which means usually if I put a book aside for an extended period of time, I'm gonna start it over. So we'll just say that no progress has been made on those. So yeah, these are the books, and orange means that I carried over my this orange means that I have read this in a previous year, not this year. The purple mark is the only one of this whole list that I have read so far in 2025, and that's Symposium by Muriel Spark. A lot of these books I don't own physical copies of them, so sometimes I have to wait to try to get them from the library. It's a slow challenge. It's a slow challenge. Slow. I'm just going to show you a couple more pages in my book, and then I'm going to have to go. This is another challenge that I'm working on this year. I've been working on this for several years. So when I first made the spread, I think this said 2023. So I think this is year 3 of me working on the... Yeah, see, 2023. I think this is year 3 of me working on this list. These are all covers for books that I want to read. A lot of these are books from the Western literary canon, books that were read and discussed in probably someone's high school or college career. And because I did not go to high school in the United States, and when I did go to college, I didn't do any literature classes. I didn't basic English in college, but I didn't do a literature class where we would have read any major works. So a lot of the American literary canon, I never read in any kind of formal way. And so this is my attempt to get that informal access. So I made a list of some books that I heard about from just discussions that people have had, or books that were mentioned on like Jeopardy, books that are mentioned as though most people have read them. And so it's not an exhaustive list, and I've added a few titles to it as the years have gone by, because, and yes, so I feel like I've added more than I have crossed off or checked off. But these are some of the books that I want to read and just kind of make sure that I know what those books are about. So that's another challenge. And then there is my challenge for the United States, the various states that I have read a book from within this year, and other regions in the world. So the Caribbean, the continents, yeah. So, this is my journal. This is my reading journal thus far. I will come back on live another time and share a little bit more, maybe some updates as I get a little closer to the end of quarter three. Maybe that's what we'll do. We will come on at the end of quarter three to discuss our progress with our reading goals, because those are also active. So I can't believe I was about to sign off and I didn't mention the book club once. So a big part of my platform I have dedicated to promoting books by Caribbean authors. So I have a book club. It's called the Runwright Reads Book Club. Shameless plug. The Runwright Reads Book Club reads books by Caribbean authors, and we alternate authors who were born in the Caribbean with authors who were not Caribbean born, but their parents or sometimes grandparents, they have Caribbean background. So these are the books that we are reading for 2025. And during the summer, a lot was happening, and so our summer reading switched a little bit. And a couple of books we switched a couple of the books. So we changed Passion Tide from December. Passion Tide was supposed to be our December read. We actually read that in June as the group read for Caribathon. And the July book, I never got a copy of it, so I didn't read that. And then the August book, we also switched because we were reading Love Forms by Claire Adam. We haven't discussed it yet. So in September, we're actually going back to the list, but I also need to replace the book for December. So updates on that coming soon. And in our next live, we will talk about some of my reading goals, maybe some of your reading goals, as we think about what we need to do to amp up our accomplishment for the end of quarter three, which ends in September, at the end of September. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for spending some time with me on live. Thank you for spending a part of the day with me discussing books. I could just talk about books all day. I could talk about my reading journal all day. I could share recommendations all day. So far this year, I've read about 50, no, not 50. I read about 70 books, and I could talk about any of them. So next time we come on, I will share maybe some more recommendations from books that I have been reading and loving this year. Yeah, so I think this was pretty successful. I gave you 4 recommendations, my first 4 books for the year. Definitely recommend for lots of different reasons, because they're such different books. And yeah, thank you for spending a part of my birthday with me. It is my birthday today, and I'm just so happy to be here, to be able to spend it with you, talking with you, chatting with you. So gonna sign off now because I need to go pick up my daughter. So have a great afternoon, and I'll talk to you in the next live. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you can get notified when I go live or when I post videos. These lives are a little unscheduled just because I haven't quite gotten back to a schedule yet. When things ease into a little bit routine with my family being back in school, then maybe we can come up with a schedule for how often we'll do these lives and what time. But for now, it's a little sporadic. It's just whenever I can, find some time. So click the bell to get notified when I post, so you'll know when I'm on here so we could chat. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Bye. Happy reading, whatever you choose over the weekend to read. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you finish it if you like it. And if you don't like it, I give you permission to switch it out and read something else that you enjoy. So happy reading. Bye. Just got a thumbnail.